The carriage wheels crunched on the gravel and came to a halt. The four white magical horses snorted, releasing clouds of shimmering vapor. The air in the courtyard suddenly felt heavier, charged with static electricity. I stood at the top of the stairs, my hands clasped behind my back. I felt confident. I had spent 2 months rebuilding this estate, training my body, and securing my finances. I was no longer the trash baron. I was the architect. But when the carriage door opened, my confidence wavered, not out of fear, but out of shock. A boot touched the ground. Then she stepped out. Elara Everhart. I had stared at her portrait for 60 days. I thought I knew her face, but paint cannot capture pressure. The moment she stood up, a wave of invisible energy washed over the courtyard. It wasn't magic she was casting, it was just her existence. Her mana was so dense, so potent, that it distorted the air around her. It felt like standing next to an exposed nuclear reactor core. She was breathtaking, yes. Silver hair cascading like liquid moonlight, eyes of a violet so deep they looked like the void itself. But I didn't feel attraction. I felt insignificant. My God, I thought, my engineer's brain analyzing the threat. No wonder the old Aric was a drunkard. Living with her, it's like living with a dragon in human skin. The servants, who had learned to respect me over the last few weeks, instantly dropped their heads. Their devotion to her was absolute. Even Sebastian, my loyal butler, looked at her with a reverence he had never shown me. He wasn't just a servant welcoming a mistress. He was a servant welcoming a queen. She didn't look at the manor. She didn't look at the sky. She looked straight at me. Her gaze was cold, clinical. There was no hate, no anger, just a profound, exhausting indifference. To her, I wasn't a husband. I was a mistake made by her grandfather, an obligation, a piece of furniture she couldn't throw away. She began to walk up the stairs. The battle mages flanking her stayed back, but their eyes were locked on me, daring me to make a wrong move. I stepped forward, forcing myself to withstand the pressure of her aura. "Welcome home, Lady Everhart," I said, my voice steady, bowing slightly, courteous, but not submissive. She stopped on the step below me. For the first time, we were face to face. Up close, I saw the fatigue in her eyes, the dark circles she tried to hide with magic. She had been fighting a war on the border, while I was playing house. "Lord Valorian," she replied. Her voice was like ice cracking. "The estate looks surprisingly intact. I have made some changes. We need to talk. It is a matter of urgency regarding our arrangement." I reached into my jacket pocket, my fingers brushing the envelope containing the divorce papers and the asset transfer. I wanted to end this now. I wanted to give her the freedom she clearly deserved. But she didn't even look at my hand. She walked past me, leaving a scent of winter flowers and ozone in her wake. "Not now," she said, not looking back. "I have spent 4 months negotiating with elves who speak in riddles. I am tired. I do not have the energy for your usual requests." She thought I wanted money or attention, or to complain about the wine cellar. "This will only take a minute," I pressed, turning to follow her. "It is a solution, for both of us." She stopped in the hallway. Sebastian was already there, taking her cloak. "A solution?" She glanced at me over her shoulder. "I have 4 months of negotiations with elves who speak in riddles. I am tired. We will speak at dinner, Lord Valorian, assuming you are capable of joining me." She implied I would be drunk by then. She turned and walked toward the master suite. The servants scrambled to follow her like satellites orbiting a star. I stood alone in the hallway, the envelope heavy in my pocket. I looked at her retreating figure. She was powerful. She was respected. She was the pinnacle of this world's hierarchy, and I was a man with 0 mana and a gun hidden under the floorboards. We were different species. "This marriage is a prison," I whispered to the empty hall. "For her and for me." I gripped the envelope tighter. She wouldn't listen to words. Fine. I would have to force the issue. I waited in the corridor leading to the dining hall. I held the envelope in my hand like a shield. Inside were the dissolution of marriage papers, draft copies of the land deeds, and the keys to the vault containing the gold I had recovered from Garman. It was the perfect deal. I was giving her everything. I was leaving myself destitute, homeless, and ostracized by my own family. In exchange, I just wanted one thing: out. The door to her suite opened. Elara stepped out. She had changed from her travel gear into a simple, elegant evening gown of pale blue silk. She looked refreshed, but her expression remained as impenetrable as a fortress wall. "Lady Everhart," I said, stepping into her path, "we must resolve this before dinner." She stopped and sighed, a sound of infinite patience wearing thin. "You are persistent today, Lord Valorian. Very well. What is this solution you speak of?" I extended the envelope. "Read it, please." She took it with 2 fingers, as if it were dirty laundry. She opened the seal, pulled out the parchment, and began to read. I watched her face, waiting for the change. I expected shock, then realization, and finally, relief. I expected her to look at me and say, "Thank you." Instead, her eyes narrowed. The air around us began to heat up. The candles in the hallway flickered violently. "Divorce," she said. The word sounded like a curse. "It is the only logical path," I explained quickly. "Our grandfathers made a mistake. You were a grand mage. I am, well, you know what I am. This marriage is a shackle on your reputation. I am offering you the estate, the gold, the title. I will take full responsibility. You will be free." She looked up from the paper. Her violet eyes were glowing. "Free," she repeated quietly. "You think this is about freedom?" She raised her hand. A small violet flame ignited at the tip of her index finger. "Wait." She didn't wait. She touched the flame to the corner of the document. The parchment didn't just catch fire, it disintegrated. The magic consumed it in a split second, turning hours of my legal work into gray ash that floated down to the carpet. I stared at the ash, stunned. "Why? I gave you everything." "You gave me an insult," she replied coldly, brushing the dust from her hands. "Do you think I married you for your land, for your gold? I have my own wealth, Lord Valorian. I married you because my grandfather swore an oath on his deathbed. To break that oath is to dishonor his memory." "But you hate me," I blurted out. "Everyone knows it." She paused. For a second, the mask slipped, and I saw something like guilt. "I do not hate you," she said stiffly. "I find you frustrating, disappointing, but I do not hate you." She stepped closer, her aura pressing down on me. "I have been gone for 6 months. Perhaps that was excessive. Perhaps my absence has caused you to spiral into this depressive state where you think running away is the answer." She straightened her posture. "I believe I have neglected my marital duties." My eyes widened. "Duties? No, no, Lady Everhart. That is not necessary," she declared, cutting me off. "We will eat together tonight, and tomorrow we will discuss the management of the estate. You are my husband. That is the reality. Deal with it." She turned and walked past me toward the dining hall. I stood there, looking at the pile of ash on the floor. My plan was perfect, logical, mathematically sound,
and she burned it because of honor. This woman, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. She is terrifying. I followed her. I had no choice. The dinner was a battlefield of silence. We sat at opposite ends of a long table, 10 meters apart. The only sounds were the scraping of silverware and Sebastian pouring wine. I tried to speak again. Lady Everhart, about the separation. She commanded without looking up. Eat your soup, Lord Valorian. When the meal ended, she stood up. I am tired. I will retire to my chambers. And I to mine, I said quickly. She paused at the door, looking back at me. There was a strange look in her eyes, maybe confusion. She noticed I wasn't drunk. She noticed I hadn't begged for money. She said, "Good night, Aric." I shivered. I went to my room and locked the door. I checked the equalizer hidden under my bed. Mission failed. The divorce was rejected. But I am the architect. If Plan A fails, I build Plan B. If she won't let me leave, I will have to find someone else to take my place.
The following week was a different kind of torture. It wasn't physical pain. It was the torture of awkwardness. Elara had decided that neglecting her duties was unacceptable, so she began a campaign of forced proximity. Every morning we ate breakfast together. Every evening we ate dinner together. We sat in the great dining hall, separated by 5 meters of polished mahogany. "The weather is mild," she would say, staring at her plate. "Yes," I would reply, "mathematically average." Silence. Then I would try again. "Lady Everhart, about the separation, pass the salt, Lord Valorian," she would interrupt, her tone brooking no argument. She refused to use my first name again. It was always Lord Valorian, spoken with a formal stiffness that felt like a wall. She thought she was being a good wife. In reality, she was being a warden. I tried to avoid her, but she was everywhere. If I went to the library, she was there reading. If I went to the gardens, she was there inspecting the roses. It was a siege, and unlike Garmin, I couldn't threaten her with blackmail. Then, on the 4th day, the stalemate broke. A horn sounded at the gate, not a carriage this time, but a single rider wearing the gold and crimson colors of the royal family. Sebastian entered the drawing room, where Elara and I were sitting in painful silence. He held a scroll sealed with the royal crest. "A message from the palace, my lady, from His Highness, Prince Valerius." I saw Ilara's eyes narrow. She didn't look happy. She looked annoyed. I, on the other hand, felt a spark of hope. I knew about Prince Valerius. He was the crown prince. Handsome, magically gifted, arrogant, and notoriously obsessed with Elara. He had courted her for years before her grandfather forced her to marry me. Target acquired, I thought. The perfect replacement. Elara broke the seal and read the invitation. "It is the winter solstice ball," she said flatly. "The prince requests my presence." "You should go," I said immediately, perhaps a little too enthusiastically. "It's a royal command. You cannot refuse. The prince, he is a man of great status. You have much in common." Elara looked at me, her violet eyes piercing. "You seem eager to send me into the arms of the royal court, Lord Valorian." "I am simply thinking of your social standing," I lied smoothly. "You have been away for months. You need to reconnect with your peers. The prince will surely want to discuss magic and politics alone." I leaned back, feeling satisfied. If the prince seduced her at the ball, maybe she would realize that staying married to a trash noble was a waste of her time. She would come back and demand the divorce herself. It was the perfect strategy. Elara stood up. She tapped the invitation against her hand, thinking.
You are right. I cannot refuse the Crown Prince. It would be a political error. Excellent, I said, standing up to leave. I will tell Sebastian to prepare your carriage for 1. 2, she corrected. I froze. Excuse me? Prepare the carriage for 2, Elara said, her voice leaving no room for debate. We are married, Lord Valorian. If I attend the royal ball alone, the rumors of our estrangement will damage my family's reputation. The prince will think I am vulnerable. She turned to face me, a cruel, beautiful smile touching her lips. You are coming with me. We will enter the ballroom arm in arm. We will dance, and you will play the part of the devoted husband. My blood ran cold. The royal ball, a pit of vipers. Every noble who hated me would be there. The prince who wanted my wife would be there. Lady Everhart, I do not have suitable clothes. I hate parties. You are the architect, aren't you? She cut in, looking at the renovations I had done to the room. You rebuilt this estate. Surely you can survive 1 evening of champagne and music? She tossed the invitation onto the table. Be ready by sunset on Friday, and try not to smell like wine. She swept out of the room. I sank back into my chair, putting my head in my hands. Plan B had backfired. I wasn't sending her to the wolves. I was walking into the den with her.
The royal palace wasn't a building. It was a statement. Towers of white crystal pierced the night sky, illuminated by thousands of floating magical lights. It was beautiful. It was majestic. And I wanted to be anywhere else. Inside the carriage, Elara adjusted her gloves. She wore a gown of deep midnight blue, embroidered with silver constellations that moved slowly across the fabric. She looked like the night sky incarnate, cold, distant, and breathtaking. I sat opposite her in my black suit. I had groomed myself to perfection. Hair slicked back, jawline sharp. I looked the part of a noble lord, but I felt like an imposter walking to the gallows. Remember, Elara said, her voice cutting through the silence, we are a united front. Do not slouch, do not drink, and do not speak unless spoken to. You make me sound like a pet, I muttered, looking out the window. Pets are obedient. You are unpredictable. The carriage stopped. The footman opened the door. We stepped out onto the red carpet leading up the grand staircase. The air was freezing, but the heat of 1,000 gazes hit me instantly. Nobles lined the stairs, dukes, duchesses, high mages. As soon as they saw Elara, a ripple of whispers began. Admiration, envy, respect. Then their eyes drifted to me. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The admiration turned to sneers. The respect turned to disgust. I heard the whispers clearly, amplified by my heightened senses. He came? The trash baron? I thought he died of liver failure. Look at him, clinging to her like a parasite. Disgraceful. I kept my face impassive. In my old life, insults hurt. In this life, they were just data. These people didn't know I had a gun on my hip beneath my coat. They didn't know I held the secrets of half the people in this line. We reached the top of the stairs. The herald banged his staff on the floor. Presenting, his voice boomed across the vast ballroom, the hero of the northern border, Lady Elara Everhart. Applause thundered, genuine, loud applause. And her husband, the herald added, his voice dropping an octave, almost rushing the words, Lord Aric Valorian. The applause died instantly. It was replaced by a polite, scattered clapping that sounded more like rain on a tin roof. We walked into the ballroom.
It was a sea of color and magic. The ceiling was an illusion of the open sky. I tried to pull my arm away gently. This was the plan, after all. I needed to separate from her so the prince could make his move. "Lady Everhart," I whispered, "I see the buffet. I will go get us some drinks. You should mingle." I took a step to the side. Elara's hand clamped onto my forearm. Her grip was iron. She didn't use magic. She used pure physical force reinforced by mana. It hurt. "You are going nowhere," she hissed through a perfect smile, waving at a duchess. "You stay." "But the prince—" "Smile, Aric," she commanded. She pulled me closer. To the room it looked like a romantic gesture, a wife holding her husband close. To me, it felt like being handcuffed to a statue. We walked through the crowd. It was the walk of shame inverted. Every man in the room looked at Elara with desire, and then looked at me with hatred. I was the man who had stolen the prize. I was the obstacle. I saw the prince across the room. Prince Valerius. He was surrounded by sycophants, holding a glass of golden wine. He was tall, blond, and radiated a golden aura of royalty. When he saw Elara, his face lit up. He took a step forward. Then he saw me. His expression curdled. It was a look of pure, unadulterated loathing. Good, I thought. Hate me. Hate me enough to steal her. "He's looking at you," I whispered to Elara. "Go to him." "Quiet," she snapped. She steered me toward the edge of the dance floor, using me as a human shield against the other suitors. I was trapped. I was in the most dangerous room in the kingdom, surrounded by enemies, chained to a woman who wouldn't let me go, and trying to orchestrate my own cuckolding. The architect had built many complex systems, but this social web, this was a nightmare I hadn't calculated.
Just as I thought I would suffocate from the noble's stares, the crowd parted again. This time it wasn't for royalty, it was for celebrity. A group of 4 entered the ballroom. They wore formal clothes, but they wore them like armor. They moved with the predator confidence of people who killed dragons for a living. It was Elara's adventure party, her real family. Leading them was Lyra, the healer, a woman with golden eyes and a gaze that judged everyone in the room as unclean. Next to her was Vesper, the rogue. She moved silently in a silk dress that definitely concealed daggers. Behind them loomed Thorn, the tank, a mountain of a man in a tuxedo that looked ready to burst from his muscles. He didn't speak. He just glared. And finally, the centerpiece, Kalen, the warrior. I looked at him and almost applauded. He was perfect. He was the archetypal hero. Tall, ruggedly handsome, with a dashing scar on his cheek and a jawline you could crack walnuts on. He looked at Elara with the eyes of a lost puppy. Target number 1, I thought. The cliché hero. Lyra and Vesper reached us first. They ignored me completely. I was just an obstacle to them. "Elara," Lyra exclaimed, reaching out. "Thank the gods. You look exhausted. Come, get away from this atmosphere." She glanced at me with sneering disgust. "We have a private table on the balcony. Kalen has been dying to show you his new medal." Vesper stepped in, physically trying to wedge herself between Elara and me. "Yes, leave the Lord to his drink. You need real conversation." It was a rescue mission. They were trying to extract the hostage. I relaxed my arm immediately. "Yes, take her," I said, please, stepping back. "Please, go with your friends, Lady Everhart. You deserve to celebrate with your team." I looked at Kalen. He was standing a few feet away, clutching a glass of punch, looking at Elara like she was the sun and he was a moth.
I leaned closer to Elara, whispering urgently in her ear. "Look at him," I murmured, acting like a salesman. "Kalen, he's a hero of the realm, strong, loyal, handsome, and clearly he is madly in love with you." Elara didn't move. She didn't let go of my arm. Her grip actually tightened, digging into my bicep. "I can see that," she replied coldly. "He is a great match," I continued, desperate. "Think about the bloodline. Powerful warrior plus powerful mage. Your children would be... The public would love it. It makes sense, Ilana. Mathematically." She turned her head slowly. Her violet eyes bored into mine. "Are you trying to sell me off, Aric?" "I am trying to improve your life," I hissed. "Why cling to a manaless failure like me when you could have Captain Aethelgard over there?"
She looked at Kalen. Kalen waved awkwardly, spilling a bit of his punch. Elara turned back to me. Her expression was flat. "I am not interested." I blinked. "What? Look at the jawline. Look at the muscles." "He is simple," she stated, as if discussing a dull book. "He is brave, yes, but he requires me to think for him. If I married him, I would be marrying a golden retriever. I require an equal, Lord Valorian, not a fan." "An equal?" I whispered, frustrated. "I am a Gnoll. I am infinitely less than him." "You are annoying," she corrected, "but at least you are not boring." She turned to Lyra and Vesper. "I will stay with my husband," she announced loudly, her voice silencing the group. "We are enjoying the evening. Perhaps later." It was a dismissal, brutal and efficient. Lyra looked shocked. Kalen looked like someone had kicked his dog. Vesper glared at me as if I had cast a mind control spell on Elara. They retreated, defeated by the Ice Queen. I watched them go, stunned. "Wow," I muttered, "the hero of the realm, rejected in 10 seconds. "Do not insult my intelligence by proposing him again," Elara warned, pulling me back toward the center of the room. "Fine," I grumbled. "Plan C it is." "What?" "Nothing," I said, straightening my tie. "Just wondering why the men in this kingdom are so incompetent at seduction." Then the trumpets sounded. The room went silent. The crowd parted down the middle. It was time for the main event, Prince Valerius. He was walking toward us, and unlike Kalen, he wasn't a puppy. He was a wolf in gold armor. Okay, I thought, steeling myself. The hero failed. Let's see if the prince can do better.
The music stopped. The chatter died down. Prince Valerius stepped onto the dais in the center of the room. He raised a glass of wine, the crystal catching the magical light of the chandeliers. He was handsome in that terrifying, polished way that royals are. He didn't look like a person. He looked like a statue made of gold and ego. "My lords, my ladies," Valerius spoke. His voice was projected by a subtle wind spell, reaching every corner of the hall without him raising his voice. "Tonight we celebrate the strength of our borders. We celebrate the heroes who keep the darkness at bay." As he spoke, his eyes didn't sweep the room. They locked onto one specific point. They locked onto Elara. He wasn't speaking to the crowd. He was performing for her. It was a courtship dance displayed in front of the entire kingdom. He was saying, "I am the future king. Look at my power." I watched him. I analyzed him. Kalen the warrior was a puppy seeking affection. Prince Valerius was a collector seeking a prize. He wanted Elara not just because she was powerful, but because she was the only thing in the kingdom he didn't already own. Perfect, I thought. He is obsessive. He won't take no as an answer. He will crush me to get to her. I leaned close to Elara's ear again. The crowd was applauding the prince's toast, masking my whisper. "Lady Everhart," I began, my voice low and reasonable. "Do you see? He ignores the dukes. He ignores the generals. He speaks only to you." Elara stared straight ahead, her face a mask of porcelain. She sipped her champagne. "He is the crown prince, the future king," I continued, pressing my advantage. "If you were by his side, imagine the influence. You could rewrite the magic laws. You could change the kingdom. He desires you, Elara. He is offering you the world on a silver platter." I waited for her to look at him, to blush, to consider the logic. Instead, she turned to me. Her movement was sharp, like a whip cracking. "Stop!" It wasn't a request. It was an order. I started to defend my logic. "I said stop, Aric," she hissed. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of a glacier. "Do not finish that sentence. Do not propose the prince to me." I froze. "But do you take me for a fool?" she asked, her violet eyes narrowing. "Do you think I don't see what you are doing? First the warrior, now the prince. You are trying to find a replacement. You are trying to hand me off to another man so you can slip into the night." My heart hammered against my ribs. She knew. I simply pointing out your options." "I have no options," she snapped, her composure cracking for a split second, revealing a flash of genuine anger. "I am a married woman. I made a vow. And frankly, the prince is a narcissist who loves his reflection more than he could ever love a woman. If I married him, I wouldn't be a partner. I would be a trophy on his shelf." She squeezed my arm again, her nails digging into the black fabric of my suit. "You are my husband. You are the burden I chose to parry. So stop trying to sell me. It is insulting to my intelligence." She turned back to face the room, the mask of indifference sliding back into place. I stood there, stunned. A cold sweat broke out on the back of my neck. She is sharp, I realized with a jolt of fear. She is too sharp. The old Aric was an idiot. He wouldn't have schemed like this. He would have just drunk himself into a stupor and cried. By trying to be clever, by trying to manipulate her, I was revealing too much. If she figures out that I am strategizing, if she realizes that my personality has completely shifted, she won't just think I'm weird. She will investigate. She is a grand mage. She knows about possession. She knows about souls. If she discovers I am an intruder in her husband's body, she will kill me on the spot. I shut my mouth instantly. "Understood, my lady," I said, lowering my head. "Good," she said. "Now brace yourself. The wolf is coming." I looked up. The prince had stepped down from the dais. He was parting the crowd, walking in a straight line toward us. His smile was dazzling, but his eyes were cold. He wasn't coming to chat. He was coming to claim. And thanks to Elara's stubbornness, I was standing directly in his path.
Prince Valerius stopped 3 feet away from us. Up close, his charisma was weaponized. He smelled of rare spices and absolute power. He didn't look at me, not even a glance. In his world, I didn't exist. I was part of the background scenery, like a curtain or a potted plant. His golden eyes were fixed entirely on Elara. "Lady Elara," he said, his voice smooth as velvet. He took her hand and kissed the air above her knuckles, too intimate, too slow. "The stars themselves seem dim tonight in your presence. The north has kept you hidden for too long." Elara didn't pull her hand away. That would be an insult to the crown. But she didn't lean in. She stood like a statue of ice. "Your Highness," she replied, her tone perfectly polite and perfectly empty. "The north is cold, but it teaches one the value of clarity." Valerius smiled, ignoring the subtle rejection. "The ballroom is suffocating, isn't it? Too many eyes, too much noise." He stepped closer, invading her personal space. "The gardens are in full bloom tonight. I have had the frost lilies enchanted specifically for this evening. Walk with me, Elara. Let us discuss the future of the kingdom in private." It wasn't a question. It was a command wrapped in silk. He was offering her the position of mistress, or perhaps even queen if he could annul her marriage. I held my breath. This was it, the ultimate offer. Elara looked at the prince. Then she looked at the hand he was offering. "Your Highness honors me," she said clearly, loud enough for the nearby nobles to hear. "But I must decline." The prince's smile faltered. A dangerous glint appeared in his eyes. "Decline? I am here with my husband," Elara said, her hand tightening on my arm again. "We have been separated for war for many months. Tonight, my time belongs to him." The rejection landed like a slap. For the first time, Prince Valerius turned his head. He looked at me. It wasn't a look of anger. It was worse. It was a look of profound, confused disgust, as if he had stepped in something unpleasant and was trying to identify it. "Ah," Valerius said, "Lord Valorian, is it?" He said my name as if it were a joke he didn't find funny. "I didn't see you standing there." A lie. He saw me. He just considered me irrelevant. "I heard rumors you were indisposed. Permanently." He was referencing my drinking. He was mocking me in front of the entire court. The old Aric would have turned red. He would have stammered or cried or said something stupid. But I am the architect. I know how to play the game of survival. I bowed. It was a perfect bow. Precise, respectful, deeply humble, but devoid of fear. "Your Highness," I said, my voice calm, "reports of my demise were mathematically exaggerated. It is an honor to stand in your shadow." The prince blinked. He expected a fool. He got a diplomat. He looked back at Elara, searching for a weakness, a sign that she wanted to be saved. He saw nothing but a wall of violet ice. He realized he had lost. Making a scene now would only make him look desperate. "Very well," Valerius said, his smile becoming tight and brittle. "Enjoy your evening, Lord Valorian. Try not to trip over your own feet." He turned on his heel and walked away, his entourage scrambling to follow him. The crowd exhaled. The show was over. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "He hates me," I stated matter-of-factly. "He despises you," Elara corrected, releasing my arm. "He despises everyone he cannot control." We walked toward the carriage exit. The party was effectively over for us. We had made our appearance. We had insulted the prince. It was time to retreat. As we waited for the carriage in the cold night air, I looked at Elara. "You refused the hero. You refused the prince. You refuse to divorce me." She looked straight ahead, watching the horses approach. "I know why you do it," I continued. "You respect your grandfather's oath more than your own happiness. You are sacrificing your life for a ghost." She didn't answer. She didn't deny it. She just stepped into the carriage, sitting in the darkness. I climbed in after her. The door closed, sealing us in together. I looked at her profile in the shadows. She was strong, she was brilliant, she was stubborn, and she was my greatest problem. I couldn't manipulate her, I couldn't divorce her, and I couldn't fight her. So I would have to survive her. The architect had a new objective, not to escape the marriage, but to win the war that was coming. Because if the prince's look was any indication, the Valorian estate was about to be under siege again. And this time, I would need more than a pistol.